Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So it has been announced that there's going to be another guaranteed legendary that you can get for free by summoning champions using sacred shards while the event is active, and you're guaranteed to get a Sicia Flametongue by your 12th sacred shard. So it has been almost 1 year since I made that 13-second Spider 25 world record team with the Sicia, but at the time there was no presets available, but now there are presets available. So I think it's time to revisit this team with presets and show you guys why you might want to summon for Sicia, because she is really insane. And for this team you can basically run 4 champions practically naked, practically gearless, and it's going to be a 13-second composition on average, about 14 seconds or so, but 13 seconds is the best you'll be able to hit with just one Sicia. And I do have another video where I cover 2 Sicias and a Temesia doing a 10-second run. So if you want to check that out, I have the link to that in the description, and I'll have a card available right here. So let's get right into the comp. Alright, so this is the composition here with Sicia, Coldart, Ignatius, Crypt King Grawl, and Prince Kymar. So some of these champions could be replaceable, but it won't be as consistent as you want it to be as for the 13-second compositions. For example, Ignatius, you can use a Tyrant, but Ignatius is the only champion in the game that has an AoE HP burn that cannot be resisted. So it's always going to be consistent, whereas a Tyrant, there's always a 3% chance of any debuff in the game to get resisted no matter what you do. So a Tyrant or Mordecai or any other AoE HP burn champion can land those AoE HP burns pretty well, but not always, right? So it'll get resisted at times and it'll mess up the speed tuning, and maybe the run could fail. So that's something to keep in mind. Prince Kymar could be replaced by a Renegade, but it won't be the same run. It's going to be a different tuning. It's going to be a different time that you finish with. Yeah, basically this is not really replaceable if you want to go for a consistent 13-second run. Crypt King Grawl is very crucial as well. You could go with like an Achak or any other AoE freeze champion, but he is a little bit different because he is also increasing the duration of HP burn debuff as well for your Sicia to pop again. So again, different composition you're going to be running if you're using AoE freeze that's not a Crypt King Grawl. And again, Coldart is not replaceable here. Sicia is pretty much the key here as well. So I guess if you want to go for this composition at 100% completion and never fail, then this is the comp you want. But again, if you replace some champions here and there, it can still be a very consistent team, but not a consistent 13-second composition, and sometimes could fail. Alright, so starting with our fastest champion in Coldart, she is the only champion you do want geared properly. You want to make sure she has at least 70% crit rate, because her Heartseeker, it applies a 30% crit rate already, so that'll be 100% right there to get the max damage. And also, another thing you want to keep in mind is there is a chart right here I'll put up, and it'll show you the amount of damage you'll need, well, crit damage, that you'll need to make sure you get the max damage on stage 21 to 25 bosses, because there's a crit cap on it. So if you look at this chart right here, there's going to be no defense down in this lineup or compositions, so I tried to go for at least 279% crit damage, so I can consistently land that max damage of 773,000 plus. So that is something you can focus on, but if you want to apply any other gear sets here, you can go less and less. Even if you go with like less than this, it's still going to land pretty consistently, but not as 100%, right? So that's just something to know. Alright, and onto the masteries here. This is how I were built, going up to the flawless execution for that extra 20% crit damage, which will help you a lot. And for the books, yeah, everything is fully booked, of course. And onto our second fastest champion is going to be Ignatius. We want to make sure that he can set up everything by landing all the AoE HP burn, having everybody ready to pop for the Sicia. So I do have him practically gearless, and you just want to focus on the speed and make sure he can go after the Coldart. And around 165 is fine, and the accuracy you do not need to focus on because his ability says it cannot be resisted, the AoE HP burn. So it's the only champion in the game that can go with no accuracy. If you're running like a Tyrant, then you definitely need accuracy. And for the skills here, I do have him booked for this, just to make sure this is a 100% chance to land the HP burn, but this cannot be resisted. So you just want to make sure this is booked if you're using Ignatius, and everything else here, it does not really matter. And for the masteries, it doesn't matter at all. I don't want him to do damage because I'm not trying to destroy the Lings. I want them to stay alive so the HP burns can tick. So I don't have any masteries on him at all. It doesn't really matter. Alright, and on to our third fastest champion in Sicia. So for this champion, practically gearless again, practically naked, and you want to focus on the speed. You don't care about the accuracy at all. All you are trying to do here is have someone go before her that AoE HP burns, ideally an Ignatius, and then she's doing a nuke that basically detonates all the HP burns that's on every single spiderling and the spider, and basically at 158 speed, that's fine. So attacks all enemies. Okay, so none of this really matters over here too much. All you really want to do is this. Then instantly activates any HP burn debuffs on each target and decreases the duration of those HP burn debuffs by 1 turn. So what happens here is everybody's HP burn is detonating, so that's ticking the main spider boss to take a lot of damage at once. And some of you might be wondering, well, why don't you just use Sicia for the A3 because she's putting the HP burns? Well, again, this is not a 100% chance to land, right? So let's say one of your HP burns do not land on a spider lane. You're not going to get an extra turn out of her. So you're not going to be able to go into this right away. So it's not a 100% chance. So ideally you want an AoE HP burn to go before her so she can just focus on detonating, and that's pretty much it. And for her masteries, I try to play around with her masteries because before in the past I did not have any masteries on my level 50 Sicia. But for this one you do want the Oppressor because it increases the turn meter fill rate by 2.5% for each active debuff cast by this champion and stacks up to 10% chance. So you're basically getting a lot of speed out of this, or turn meter, so you can make sure she can go at a certain point. And I couldn't really get this to work without this, so ideally you do want this done. Alright, on to our 4th champion here is going to be, so normally I would say you want to go with the Crypt King Grawl as your 4th to go with the AoE freeze, but for some reason, like I said in my testing, I could not get this to work where the Crypt King Grawl is going before the Kymar. So instead I have the Kymar going before the Crypt King Grawl, and basically again just focusing on the speed. He's going after the Sicia at 153. And for the books, again, gearless, right? Naked. You don't need it booked. You don't need it mastered, and he's level 50. And onto the Crypt King Grawl, I do have him going last at 151 speed, and that's right before the spiderlings take a turn. Alright, and onto the last champion here, we have Crypt King Grawl at 151 speed, and basically you do want to focus on accuracy here because this matters for him. And what he's doing here is he's actually a really crucial piece to this team because he's going to be increasing the duration of HP burn so that you can have the Sicia pop off and all of the spiderlings take a turn to take damage, because the Ignatius is placing them twice, the Sicia is going to be popping them, decreasing them to 1, and then we want them all to take a turn as well to take damage and then have enough HP burn on them again as well for our Sicia to explode them one last time for that 13-second run. So again, crucial. And this first part here, you do want to make sure everybody's under HP burn in order to freeze them. So again, Ignatius, very crucial if you want to make it 100% consistent. So for the masteries as well, no masteries needed, and the books are not needed as well. Alright, so this Spider 25, I already went over the champion order, so it's just the presets now. So starting with Ignatius, we want to make sure we prioritize the A3 for the HP burn. And then for the Cold Art, we want to make sure we prioritize the Heartseeker. So these two don't really matter because she's going to be focusing on this anyways twice, and that's pretty much it, unless you have a run that fails or not consistent with the landings of the HP burn if you're using a different comp. And for the Crypt King Grawl, we are focusing on the AoE freeze and the extend. And for Sicia, we are going to be prioritizing the A2 to detonate, focusing on the detonate here. And for the Prince Kymar, we're focusing on the reset. So that's pretty much it. There's no such thing as a round 2 and round 3 in Spider. It's just one round. Alright, so here we go. It's very, very consistent. 13 seconds on basically almost all the time. Sometimes it'll be a little bit slower, like 14 seconds, 15 seconds, but for the most part, it's always 13 seconds. Boom. Alright, let's run it again. And if you are running this exact team, then you want to make sure your FPS is set to unlimited. So if you're running this on, let's say, a mobile, it won't be, it's not going to be consistent 13 seconds or even 13 seconds because a lot of mobile phones are capped out at 60 FPS, but you want to make sure you're capped out at unlimited. So let's run it one more time here. Okay, so we didn't get the AoE freeze there, unfortunately. So that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes it'll be less, like the Crypt King Grawl AoE freeze is not consistent, right? It's not, there's always a 3% chance of it failing. So we didn't land it there. So I do want to take you over to the profile here and show you how to set your FPS to unlimited. And there you go. Boom. Easy. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoy your Sicia if you do get her or plan to get her. And yeah, I hope you guys found this informative one way or another. And if you enjoy my content in general, please make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and I'll see you all in the next video.